The United States makes the UN work when it wants it to work. And that is exactly the way it should be, because the only question for the United States is what's in our national interest.
My name is John, and the International Criminal Court is back in session. It is August 12th, 2025, and there is a lot of news coming in. 1 to 2 days ago, the Russians launched a push in the central Donetsk region. And this push is aimed at capturing the city of Dobropillyya and also completely encircling the city of Pokrovsk, or as many Russians would prefer to call it, Krasnaya Amisk. So, yeah, we'll get to that in a bit, but first of all, let's talk about the other fronts that are near the central Donetsk area. First of all, we're going to talk about the Zaporozhye direction. The Russians have continued their advances in this area, though the Ukrainians have recently tried to launch a counterattack here, but so far it appears that the attacks have achieved mixed results. Now, on one hand, they were able to kick the Russians out of these high-rise building areas, or commie blocks. And also, they have reestablished themselves a bit in the village of Plavny, which is just outside of the town of Kamensky, which the Russians captured last month during their limited or localized offensive in the Zaporozhye region. But other than that, though, that's pretty much it for the Zaporozhye area, because, let's be honest, nothing is going on here that much. Though there are some rumors that the Ukrainians are spreading around that the Russians are getting ready for a bigger push in the Zaporozhye direction. We don't have any details whatsoever what this push will look like and when and where it will take place, but according to them, it's coming. In the South Donetsk / Dnepropetrovsk direction, the Russians continued to advance further west towards the border with Dnepropetrovsk. But as of recent, the advances have I guess, crawled to a halt, or slowed down, that is. And it appears that there is some sort of an operational pause or a stalemate in this area, though for the most part, it seems the Russians have accomplished their goals in this area. So now, essentially, everything here within the southwestern Donetsk area is under Russian control, along with the last pocket that is northwest of Oleksivka and Andriivka. The Russians have also continued to push towards the border with Dnepropetrovsk from the village of Horikove, but that's about it. Now, going to Udachny, we got some news, believe it or not. So the last Deep State update showed the Russians advancing into Udachny from this direction and also from the south. So they're advancing from the west and the south. But now, after a recent geolocation was provided by Creamy Caprice, it appears the Russians have partial control over the village center, but also other pro-Russian sources, which are very reliable, by the way, appear to show that the Russians control the entirety of the southern half of Udachny. Now, there is no specifics in regard to the central part here, but what we can assume right now is that the Russians do control most of Udachny, but they haven't so far consolidated their gains in the north. Though it is said, according to these same sources, that the armed forces of Ukraine are finally defeated in this area, and once the Russians are able to capture Udachny, they will be able to duke it out for the Pokrovsk mine here, and in turn advance on the E50 road, which goes towards the Dnepropetrovsk region in this area. And in the city of Pokrovsk, now this is sort of like today's main attraction, maybe like second main attraction, that is. The Russians have continued to advance within the suburbs of the city of Pokrovsk. They have taken under complete control the village of Choryanda, which is essentially just Pokrovsk, all but in name. It's basically a part of the city, and also parts of the south and southwest are also under Russian control too. So with that, the Russians pretty much are on a roll here, and also geolocations have also indicated that the Russians have advanced even deeper within the central part of Pokrovsk. It is not quite clear of how much control the Russians have within the main part of the city, but what we can assume, though, at this moment, is that the Russians are very much in the city here, at least in the southern area, with some limited control within the central part, like the main part of Pokrovsk. Ukrainian sources have claimed that many Russians have died while trying to take the city, but the problem, though, is that this seems kind of, copy. There is no evidence so far of the Russians being pushed out. If anything, the Russians are still very much in, and if anything, they're only digging deeper and deeper into Pokrovsk, especially the main parts, like the key vital parts. These two commie block areas are what will determine who controls the entire city, and arguably Mayanograd too, because whoever controls these two commie blocks controls the entirety of Pokrovsk. Because without these commie blocks here, basically this entire area here will fall easily. Now, regarding the north, I don't know at this time because, well, it's across a big railroad track, like a series of railroad tracks, and then going a little up north, we got some big news coming up. Apparently, the Russians have broken through the areas north of Mayanograd and Pokrovsk, and it appears that the majority of Krasny Liman, or as the map reads here, Chervnoy Liman, has been mostly seized by Russia. And in addition, the mines that are east of Rudensky are under Russian control as of right now, and as a result, the Russians now have a good position overlooking not just Rudensky, but also Mayanograd. So their firing positions improved drastically. And also, there are reports, like reliable sources out there, saying that the Russians are very much inside the town of Rudensky and have taken their first big buildings here. Now, this map provided by Syriac, many are saying is outdated and that the Russians control much more than they do control right now within Rudensky. But as far as we know at this time, the Russians have been confirmed to control at least these areas in Rudensky. So yeah, keep an eye out on this vital town, because whoever controls Rudensky essentially controls the fate of the city of Pokrovsk and its twin, Mayanograd. Now, going up north, even more bad news is coming for the armed forces of Ukraine. So, the village of Suketsky has been taken by Russia, and also the outskirts of Belitsky are also being infiltrated too by the Russians. And in addition, it only gets worse from here. Nikhanarivka has been completely captured by the Russians, and Ivanovka is about to be contested by Russia too. Novi Shakhove is being contested by the Russians as well. Vilna is still apparently under Ukrainian control, I think. And then we got some major breakthroughs up here northeast of the city of Dobropillyya. Now, the settlements that are under, I guess, a gray zone or contested by the Russians are Zoloty Kolovdiaz, or Green Valley, I think, is what they call it. And then the village of Kuchrivyar. The recent attacks have apparently shown that the Russians are advancing on this key road between Dobropillyya and the infamous city of Kramatorsk, which is obviously critical, if you want me to simplify it enough. But yeah, the road between Dobropillyya and Kramatorsk is on the brink, if not completely cut by now, as of the recording of this video. And in addition, the Russians have been speculated to take the villages of Stepi and Rubizny, and there's even crazy reports that they have taken Novi Donbas, and as far as the city of Dobropillyya itself. Like, there are claims of DRG's deep reconnaissance groups already inside the city. But as of this video, again, so far no evidence, and if anything, I kind of doubt these claims at this time. But tomorrow, anything can change because the offensive, which is happening right before Donald Trump's meeting with Vladimir Putin, which will take place in 3 days from now, has just started. And for all I know, this map could drastically change tomorrow. Like, usually when a big offensive is ongoing by either sides, anything can change. Like, drastically within a matter of days, if not hours. But yeah, it's a complete disaster right now for the Ukrainians up here. And many pro-Ukrainian channels are stating that the whole situation is fucked. And it's only a matter of time before the Russians take even more territories, especially Dobropillyya. But time will tell if those Azov reinforcements are going to come and save the day, or if it's too little too late. There's also reports, by the way, that because of this push, that the Russians have broken through a massive defensive fortifications in this area. And after this area is breached by the Russians, there's essentially nothing stopping them from taking the town or village of Alexandrivka. Like, Ukrainians will have no choice but to fold back from village after town after city. Like, the whole thing is a complete clusterfuck, and I don't really know what to say other than Ukraine is cooked. And speaking of which, let's advance down or go to the Konstantinovka front. The battle for the city of Konstantinovka is about to start. So the Russians have cleared out the last pockets of resistance within the city of Toretsk. Wikipedia themselves have even confirmed the capture. There's even a report that Shesherbanivka is now under complete Russian control, along with the village of Katarinivka, but this is unconfirmed. And also, recent Russian advances have also put the village of Klibambuk in a cauldron or pocket. And now these guys are going to either have to surrender to the Russians, die fighting, or try to make a futile attempt to cross this little river here. Now, I don't know what they're going to do, but if I were them, I would surrender. But maybe they're probably not going to, knowing how bad Russian prisons can be. But yeah, this whole situation is now in a cauldron, and it's only a matter of time before the Russians basically level out this whole front, and it makes their pathway to Konstantinovka much easier. And going a little north, in the Chasiv Yar / Artyomovsk direction, as all you guys know by now, Chasiv Yar was completely captured by the Russians last week, and with this capture, the high grounds have been taken, which now gives the Russians the perfect opportunity that they have been waiting for the last year or so since they started the battle for Chasiv Yar, and now they are advancing on the city of Konstantinovka itself. And the first village to fall after Stupachki and Chasiv Yar is the village of Pidichine. With this capture, they're pretty much knocking on Konstantinovka's doors. They're coming. The battle for this city is going to start maybe this fall, though I don't think they're going to start it too soon. I think they're going to try to clear out all these areas here before they start moving from the northeast. I don't think they're going to move on it too quickly, but definitely by fall, they're going to move in. Russians have also reportedly advanced north of Chasiv Yar towards the village of Maisky, and moving further north, more reports are coming in about the Ukrainian defenses collapsing in the forest within the Lugansk region. And this is, by the way, one of the last chunks of land that the Ukrainians still control within Lugansk Oblast. And because of these defenses here falling apart, the Russians finally seized upon the opportunity and captured the vital village of Torske. Finally. After 1 to 2 years of trying to recapture this place, they have finally gotten it out of the way. This is arguably one of the key victories for the Russians in the Liman direction in over a year. And in addition, the Russians have started contesting for the villages of Saradine and Chandri Holohove. BREAKOUT is now mostly under AFU control as a result of a recent counterattack. And then the village of Zeleny Gai in the Kharkiv region is under Russian control too. It was just recaptured, by the way. I think the Russians took it at one point, but then they had to fight back to retake it. But yeah. And then in the city of Kupiansk, the Russians continue to advance within the city's northern neighborhoods. They took like a little train station, I think, here, which is this one, but that's pretty much it. Though otherwise, the situation in Kupiansk remains more or less the same as last week. But yeah. So, nothing much going on in the Veliki Berlik direction. Nothing going on in this northeastern corner here. Nothing going on much in the Volchansk direction. Nothing going on in Lipsy direction. And also, not much going on too in the Sumy direction. So, with that being said, after everything I talked about, there's a lot of things that are going on the front line now, but keep an eye out on what will happen in Alaska. A lot of people are saying that Vladimir Putin is going to give up his dream of taking over the entirety of Ukraine in favor of a deal, but I highly doubt that. I think Vladimir Putin is going to give Donald Trump a way out of this conflict at the airbase here in Anchorage, Alaska. And I certainly think what will happen after this meeting is that Donald Trump will say, oh, it went very well. But in reality, though, nothing really got done, and the status quo remains in place. But I will say, though, if there's anything I can predict, it's that, as Trump himself said, and what he always wanted, is that the Europeans would take more full control of the conflict in Ukraine without the U.S. helping it. Well, not completely, but they're going to take command of the whole thing. In fact, I heard many European leaders are opposing the meeting in Anchorage, Alaska, which is of no surprise because they think by doing this, Donald Trump is effectively selling out Ukraine to Russia, which he could be doing at this meeting, for all I know. But I'll keep those speculations to myself, and especially to the rest of you, because there's not really much to talk about other than that. So yeah, Donald Trump, Putin, they're going to meet in Anchorage in 3 days from now, and we will talk about this all next week. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hoped you enjoyed it. Comment below what you think of the recent talks and also the recent advances taking place in the Donbas. I'll see you all next time, everybody, and peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.